Hi guys, you might have noticed that I'm going through the comments one by one, and I'm responding to some of the issues that some of you guys might have. So what I want to do, I want to go through each of those comments and then get you up to speed and help you through those issues. So I'm responding to a comment that was left by Samit Kumar, and this was about 4 weeks ago, and he had some issues with pip. So he was getting a SSL certificate issue when he was trying to install packages through pip. And there was another person called Ayers Huhu. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, if that's your real name. And he also had the same problem, and I think there may have been a couple of others who might have experienced SSL certificate problems with loading modules through pip, installing modules through pip. So yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to address those issues and give you a walkthrough on how to fix it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to first show you what that issue is, and then I'm going to walk you through step by step from the beginning on how you would go about compiling Python, so that way it's compiled with the SSL module. And then also towards the end, I'm going to show you how to fix that issue, recompile it if you have already compiled. And then lastly, what I'll do, I'll run you through a script that I've written that will save you having to do everything manually, and you can just run the script and it will just do everything for you. So alright, let me just open my desktop. I'm going to go to my Python tutorial. Now I've noticed that the issue that you get with pip is it's not consistent. So I've actually run it, and I did get this issue. I was able to recreate the issue, and then I was able to rerun it. I kept on doing tests, and sometimes this issue would occur and sometimes it wouldn't. So it seems as though when it compiles, in some circumstances it might not recognize where your openssl binary is located. And I'll show you what the issue looks like. So I have taken a screenshot, and it looks like this. So for example, when I'm trying to load in a module with my newly installed pip 3.7, or let's say 3.7.5, because I'm going to install the same version which I installed when I downgraded on my previous tutorial. So I did the exact same thing, and when I was trying to install, for example, pandas, then I was faced with what you see down here where it says can't connect to HTTPS URL because the SSL module is not available. So when it was compiled, it didn't compile with the SSL module. So this is what we're going to fix, right? So alright, let's start from the beginning. So anyone who is coming straight into this, hasn't followed the previous tutorial, I'm going to do everything from the beginning, step by step. So I'm going to compile from the start with SSL enabled. So we're going to specifically look for, or let's say explicitly look for, the directory where SSL is kept. OpenSSL is kept. Alright, so let's get some windows open, and I'll just enlarge that. And I'll open up about 3 windows. Just make that larger. Okay, I think that looks good. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to do an update. So sudo apt update. So I'm going to update my repository, and I'll just let that run. And let's put this on the first tab. And what else am I going to do? On this tab, the second one, I'm just going to get my script up. So I've created a script here, and as I said, towards the end I'll walk you through this entire script, and I'll upload it onto GitHub, so where you can access it and then you can just run it. So you'll have a choice whether you want to do this step by step yourself manually, or if you just want to quickly run the script, you can run the script. So I'm just going to get something from this script, and I'll just do a cat, and in this script I'm just going to get the dependencies, the dependent libraries, which are all over here. Now I'll just make this smaller for a sec. Okay, well that's not really going to make much of a difference. I'm just trying to allow you to see it a bit better. Okay, let's just squeeze this down a bit, and I'm just going to make something quick and easy for myself. I'm just going to get a website up, which is JSON Validator. Now, because I use Vim, then sometimes, you know, I can't really be bothered to do everything in Vim. Sometimes there might be something I want to do really quickly, and it's just easier to do it on an editor. Now, what I normally do, I just go into JSON Validator. It's not that one, it's this one, and I do a load of JSON Validator stuff, validation of JSON in this online editor. So I'm just going to copy this in here, and then I'm just gonna edit it. Alright, so this is what it looks like formatted, and what I've done, I've made a note against each one of these and just explaining what it is, because sometimes, you know, you would come across dependencies that you need to install, and blindly you'll just install them to get something working, right? So what I try to do, if I say, okay, this is what you need to install as a dependent library, then I will give an explanation as to what it is, right? So all of that is in the script, which you can look for. Now what I want to do, I just want to do this in a one-liner. So I'm just going to just put all of this into one line. And that's why I just go into this editor, just so I can quickly do that, rather than doing it in Vim sometimes. I mean, Vim will be quick as well, but I'm just going to do this very, very quickly with my mouse. Okay. Now, the most crucial library is actually this one. So zlib lg dev, and I mean all of them are really essential, so to avoid any issues. But that's quite an important one for this particular thing here. So, and autoconf and automake, then you should have those, you know, you really should install those as well. But when I was recreating this issue, I didn't have those installed. I was able to get the error without having those installed. So I'm just going to leave it out for the moment, because what I want to do, I want to compile this, specifying where to locate SSL without those particular libraries, and I just want to get it working as I was able to get it working before. I mean, if you did install those, it will get it working, but I'm guessing that what it might do is it will just automatically find it itself without you explicitly telling it. So that's why I'm leaving it out. So then I want to do a sudo apt install, and in one line I can just install all of those libraries. Okay, so I'll just clear this, and in here I'll clear that too, and I'll just paste that, and I'll just say yes for each of these. I mean, what I could have done, I could have put the yes flag, that would have been easier, but if I get prompted for yes, then I'll just say yes. Okay, so that's cool, there's only one of them. Alright, so that's all installed. Let's clear this again. Now what I want to do, I want to go to Python, and I'm going to get the source file. So I'm going to go to python.org/ftp. Alright, so okay, so I think it's Python. Okay, there we go. So we've got the full list of the source files, which we can just take and install. So if we want to downgrade, we've got the full list there. Alright, so exactly what I did before, I am going to get version 3.7.5, so it's going to be this one. So I'm just going to copy the link address. I mean, I could just click on that and download it, right? But I'm not gonna do anything manually. In the previous tutorial, I also downloaded it in my home directory, which is here. So I downloaded it there, but I'm not going to download it here. Rightfully, what I should do, I should just download it in my temp directory. So I'm going to, oh, and if I just come over here, if I go to other locations and user, so I'm going to, local, install it here. So if you've been following my other tutorials, you'll notice that I normally install stuff in user local, and here I've got Maven, I've got Scala, I've got Spark. So over here, this is where I'm going to install it. And I am just going to say user local. So I'm going to make a directory where I'm going to save the source file. So I call that user local Python source. And I'll need to put a sudo on that because I'm in a protected directory. Okay, so here we've got it here. So this is where I'm going to install it. Now I'm going to go to wget, and this is to install it. Sorry, this is to save it. And I'm going to save it in temp. And that's the file itself. Or is it? Okay. That actually is the web address. So I do know the actual file which I'm looking for. So I'm just going to put that in. I'll type that in manually. Python. I'm not sure if capitals do make a difference, but it is a capital. 3.7.5.tgz. So it's a TGZ. Right, so wget, get the file, and directory is going to be that one, temp, and it's going to go to, and I'm getting it from this address. Okay, so let's get that. Alright, so it's now downloading it. And if I just cd into temp, and here it is here. So that's the uncompressed file. Now what I want to do, I want to uncompress it. So I'm going to uncompress it, excuse me, to this location. So if I just say sudo tar xzvf, and it's going to be this file, and the directory where I want to take it to will be this particular one. This is just a quick thing. You know, if you don't want to type out paths, you can just throw the directory or file into terminal, and it'll just tell you where it is, and you could just copy it. So that's just a quick way of doing stuff, to be honest. I could include, yeah, I can include these apostrophes, or I don't need to. So okay, yeah, so that's where it needs to go, and we'll just decompress it. So now if I look into this directory, we've got Python 3.7.5, and I've got all of my source files and directories in there. Alright, so now I'm good to go. So I'll just cd out of temp, clear that. Now what I want to do is I just want to do some editing here. So but before I do some editing, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you my current installation of Python. So let's do a Python v for version. So if I don't include a number here, then it's going to give me Python 2. Yeah, so that's the default for looking for the version 2 interpreter. What's the latest version of that? Now, if I do the same thing for 3, then it's going to give me the default version for 3, which is 3.8.5. Now, what I want to download, sorry, what I want to install is Python 3.7.5. Now, I can just do an abbreviation for that, which is 3.7.5, and it's telling me that I don't have it. Now, if I didn't want to install it by compiling it, then I could install it using apt, but the only versions available for that is 3.9, 3.8 and 2.7, and this is why we compile it from source, so we can get the exact version that we want, which might not be available by apt. So I'll just clear that. Alright, so I'm just going to show you as well. So if I just do a ls user local lib, and I'm just going to grep. So I'm just going to grep Python. So it tells you what I've currently got installed, where the binaries are kept. So 2.7 and 3.8. So after the installation, then I would aim to see Python 3.7 included in there. Alright, so and if I just actually go into that as well, this is usually a location for just general kind of stuff that will be sent there. So it's only really Python 2.7 and 3.8 which I've got in there, but you could get other programs in there as well. And I'll just cd out of that and clear it. Alright, so another thing that I can do, I can say pip3 version. So it's telling me that I've got pip 20, version 20, and it's in Python 3, which is my default. Yeah, Python 3.8. Let's clear that. and I'll also do a pip3 freeze. So for that particular version of pip, it's going to tell me what I've got installed. So these are all of the packages I've got installed for pip3 for my default version of it. Now when we install version 3.7.5, then it's not really particularly going to use the default version of pip. Pip will be its own version installed within Python 3.7, and I'll show you how that looks as we go through this. Alright, so first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some changes to a particular file. So I'm going to go to, sorry if I'm going too fast on this, I'm going to go to modules. So within my source, Python 3.75, I'm going to go to modules and I'm going to look for a file called setup. So if I just go all the way down here, where is it? So it's going to be this one, setup distribution. Now let's edit that file. So I can just throw that into my terminal and just go into Vim and here it is. So I'm going to go down to lines, was it 200 and something? Let's see where it is. Yeah, I think I might have gone past it. Here we are. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some edits to this bit here, and now first of all I should probably tell you a little bit about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So what this is doing, it's looking for openssl. Now the error that we got, if I just open up another folder here, so I just go to desktop, tutorial, Python, just take a look at that screen grab again. So the error we got was it couldn't find the module SSL in Python. It wasn't available because when it was compiled, it couldn't find openssl to compile Python. So that module is just not available. Now what we want to do is explicitly tell Python where to look for openssl, and we do have that installed. So if I just close this as well, if I go to openssl version, then we've got it installed, openssl 1.1.f, but when we install it, it's not finding it for some reason. Sometimes it will find it when it compiles, and for some reason it's not finding it, and that seems to happen on Ubuntu version 20 rather than earlier versions like 19. So what we're going to do, we're going to explicitly tell it where to get this, and this is installed in, well, I can do a D and it's going to look for it here. This is where it automatically looks for it. But if I were to put that directory into our flags when we compile, then it still might not find it. So we're just going to be very, very explicit on where it is, and where it's kept is it's kept in here. So let's just do a ls all, and where it looks for it, it's going to look for it in bin, in local, and include. So let's go back to this, and so over here there's a default. So if I were just to uncomment that, it will look for it in user local SSL, but in version Ubuntu 20 it's not in there. Now I think that could have been in earlier versions, but in the current version it's not in there. So we just need to tell it where to look for. So it's going to be in user. So, and I'll tell you why that is, because this parameter is being set with the prefix path, and then we just need to uncomment these other 3 lines. And so this parameter which is being set, SSL, it then looks in include, and then include, it looks for openssl, and then SSL lib, it then looks for these files. So let's take a look at that. So if I go into, first I go into lib, and then it's looking for files within here. And if I just come out of that, and I go into include, then it's looking for a particular file, which is, if I can find it, openssl. So that's a directory, sorry. If we go into openssl, then it's looking for SSL.h, this C file. So here you can see include directory openssl, and it's getting everything that it needs in there. Alright, so if we uncomment that, then we're good to go. And then we also need to uncomment this one, socket. And this over here, this is the module, what you're explicitly telling Python in its setup to include. Yeah. So if I now go over to the screenshot again, and it's here, then I think there is a reference to _SSL. There might not be. Okay, so it's not in this one, but if I were to load that module, try and load that module in a particular way, it will say, okay, _SSL is missing. So this is where you're being very specific in loading that. So if you do that, then you're good. And let's save that. Okay, it's not allowing me to. Okay, the reason why it's not doing that, let's just quit that for a sec, is because I had to use sudo. So let's just go back in there. So sudo and we'll go back to line 240. I don't have line numbers now, but I'll just keep on scrolling. Okay, here it is. So this line will uncomment, this line will uncomment, and we'll give the correct path where it needs to look for it. This module will need to load, and some of its other paths which are included. So now I can write that and then quit it. Alright, so that's now done. Alright, what's the next thing I need to do? Now what I can do is create the Makefile. So what I should do, let's just close that again. Now this particular folder, I'm being lazy, so I'm just going to throw paths in here. I need to go back into my source, and I'm just going to cd into this directory. So now I'm in this directory, I'm just going to run this particular file, which is configure. Alright, so the flags which I need to put in here are going to be sudo configure. So I need to run this file as an executable, and then I'm going to enable optimizations optimizations. And then I'm going to be explicit and say with open SSL equals user. Alright, so now what I can do, just make sure that it looks correct. So sudo configure enable optimization, spelled it correctly, and with open SSL. Okay, and now I can configure it. And as it configures, we'll just wait for that to finish, and I'll show you something which you need to look for that tells you that the Makefile has been created correctly with SSL, checked for and validated. So just give that a little bit to run. Doesn't take that long. Alright, so this is where I explicitly specified the directory here. So it's given me a yes. It says checking whether compiling and linking against OpenSSL works. It says yes. It's done this verification with X509, yes. And it's also said with SSL default suites, Python. Alright, so if I've got all of that, it doesn't necessarily have to be all of these 4 lines. These 4 lines tell me that I've given it an explicit custom path. Well, it's not really a custom path, this is where it is, but I've given it an explicit path of where to locate it. So if you didn't give it an explicit path and it was able to locate it automatically, then it would just be 2 lines and it would say yes, it's compiled it, but the one you're looking for is really going to be, or the 3 that you're looking for are going to be these. So it would be 3 lines. It will say compiling and linking against OpenSSL works, yes, the one below it and the one below it. So if you don't get that, if it says any of these and it says no, then it hasn't found a version of OpenSSL. If you don't have OpenSSL installed, which is going to be highly unlikely if you're using Ubuntu, but if you don't have it installed, let me know in the comments and I can include another tutorial on how to install that. Alright, so okay, what we're going to do next. Okay, so that's done. Now what we can do, we can run make. So when we run make, we'll do a sudo make, and let's say for example you had more than 1 core, then you can put in like 8 cores, 16 cores, whatever, how many cores you have, then you can specify that. I've only got 1, so there's no point in me doing 1 like that. I can just leave it out, but the most important thing is to do a alt install rather than just a sudo make on its own. So sudo make alt install, and I am good to go and run that. So, and I'm also doing that as I'm into this directory. Now let me just go back to this before I actually click on that. So when I ran configure this file, what it did, it created this file. So we can see it's 1311 and up here it says 1314. So that's what it did. It successfully created my Makefile, as you can see down here. So now I can run sudo make install, and we'll just let that install. So give that a bit, It shouldn't take too long. Not like on the other video. It should be pretty quick. But really, you shouldn't get this issue with the SSL certificate. It's a bit weird because I was doing tests to recreate the issue, and I wasn't getting it, and then the other day I was doing it and I was getting it. And you know, I did quite a few tests to get the issue, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. So I'm not quite sure why it happened and it didn't happen, but it was the exact same thing I was doing. Nothing was different. It was always the same as I was doing it. And for one day, I was running repeated tests and I was getting the issue with pip not being recognized with SSL, and then I was able to fix it. So and then I ran it without fixing it, without doing the explicit telling it where my openssl was, and it was able to recognize it on its own. So so yeah, but if you do run into this issue, then this is the way in which you fix it. And there's nothing wrong with your Python installation. It's just really telling it, recompile. You just have to recompile it, compile it or recompile it with SSL configured correctly. But without SSL, without being able to install pip, then your installation of Python is going to be pretty useless, right? Yeah, you can write some Python code, but you want to install libraries, to get the most out of Python, because you don't want to write these libraries yourself. So let that run. Shouldn't take too long. And I'll also make another mention as well that in this particular file, you could also, and when you do the Makefile, you can, if you've got a custom installation of openssl, and you might have that because you might have a different version for some reason. And you might want to point to that. So you could have openssl in your home directory, or you could have it elsewhere. Okay, so this is completed, and it's installed its own version of pip. So remember when I did a pip version, we found pip 20, but this is pip version 19.23, and where it installs it is inside of 3.7. So right, shall I clear this? Okay, let's clear this. Let's clear it, and we'll come out of that source directory, and I'll clear it again. So let's create a test file, and I'm just going to go into my desktop, and we'll create a test file in here. So let's go into this particular folder, and vim So within here, let's clear this tab, and we'll call this file test Python. Okay, looks like I've got a call here. I can call them back, so I'm just gonna let that ring for a sec, because we're soon finished. Okay, I'll call them back. Alright, so we're going to create a file, and so that'll be a touch, and then okay, here we are. So within that file, okay, alright, so within this file, it's going to, I'll put the shebang at the top, and it's going to be bin python 3, and then I'm going to import pip and sys, and I'm going to print my version, and I'm going to print pip. Okay, I think that looks good. Alright then. Alright, so let's run this file. So Python 3. Alright, so what it's showing us is I've included Python 3, so that's version 3.8.5, and pip, which is located in its default location, which is Python 3. Right, so I've just said, okay, give me the default interpreter, which is version 3.85, which is the most recent and what my system is set to. Now I can change the interpreter to 3.7.5 with the abbreviation 3.7, and so it's now going to tell me 3.7.5, and pip is located in the folder Python 3.7. Sorry, Python 3.7. Now remember the location, which I said before was user local lib. So let's go into that folder and take a look, and you can now see, well, really what it's telling you, right? So cd and then ls all. So here we can see it here. So we've got libpython 3.7 and python 3.7. So that's the new installation of it. So we've got, and also this package config as well. So 13, 116, 118 and 118. So let's just come out of that. All right, so so I'll do a pip 3 version again. My default is 20, and if I do a 3.7, then it's 19.23. So if I install anything in my default, then it would just be pip 3 version. If I install anything with pip 3 0.7.5, then it would just be pip 3.7, right? So let's install something. Let's clear this as well. Let's install with something into, well, before we do that, I'll do a pip 3 freeze. So that's everything that I've got in my default version of pip. And then I'll do a pip 3.7 freeze. I've got nothing in there. So we're going to install something into pip 3.7. So pip 3.7 install arrow. Arrow is just some library. I was just looking for, just to run some tests. I've never used Arrow before, but it's just some sort of package, and I just thought this would be a good one to test, because when I tested it with the issue, then I got that issue. Or let's do pandas. Let's do pandas. Pandas might take a little while. So let's do that. So there's no issues with this. There's no SSL issues. It's going to install that just fine, I hope. Alright, so the only warning that I got was you are using pip version 19.23. However, version 21.0.1 is available. So it's looking at this older version, which is fine, because that's the version of pip which is equivalent to 3.7. And if I try to use something different, then I could get errors. Or maybe not, maybe not. But yeah, so that's installed okay. No SSL issues. So let's do a pip3 freeze, and you can see pandas installed and its dependencies, which are numpy and these ones over here, are all installed in there as well. And if I do a pip3 you can see this is completely different. My default version of Python is completely different to 3.7. So just bear that in mind. When you install in pip for version 3.7.5 or whatever version you might have, then its interpreter, its version of pip, its location of pip is going to be completely different to what you have set on your default. Now, in the first video I did about downgrading or installing a different version of Python, I showed you how to switch versions, right? So if you typed in, what is that? So when I ran this code, when I ran this file, I didn't have, so if I ran that, I had Python 3, right? So my default version of Python 3 is going to be 3.85. But what if you didn't want to put 3.7? What if you just wanted, however you've configured your system, you just want to have Python 3 and it locates the particular version of Python that you've installed. So I did a bit on this in the first video of how to set it system-wide, and in the description what I'll do, I'll put a link to that first video, the specific chapter where I show you how to do that. But I'd probably say there's not really much point in doing that. You can just, if you've got a 3.7 or whatever version you want to run, then just put just put the interpreter version there, and then you can run it. And then let's say, for example, you've got a particular install of a framework like Spark or whatever it might be. It could be TensorFlow. And it's looking for a particular earlier version of Python, then you can just set that up in your environment path. And I think that's just an much easier, nicer way to do it, much more manageable way to do it. Don't symlink, don't do any sort of configurations that are different to your system, because your system works in a particular way, which it is looking for default versions of Python. Your system relies heavily on Python. There's a lot of stuff in Python which it does under the hood, even if you don't use it. So it's no point in really kind of changing it. Just leave it as it is, and then just specify your interpreter. And then if you want to use a particular package which relies on a certain version, then just set that up in your path where to look for it. If you guys have any problems, then just let me know, and I will I will help you. So yeah, I want to get you guys where you need to be. We can all get there together. So if anyone is behind and needs help, then just let me know in the comments and I'll help you through. All right, so now what I'm going to do, let me just clear this. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through running the script. So and I'll talk you through the script as well. So I'm running this on VM. So I'm just going to close this. All right, so right, let's get a window open, terminal window, and always like to have a few windows, or tabs. So this is completely fresh, and I'm going to show you how to easily do this running the script. Okay, so I've copied over my script and I've created this folder once more, and what I'll do, I'm just going to go into the folder. So let's go into Vim. Alright, so this script I've written, and I'll change this bit up here, so I'll call that something different. This is the old tutorial, and I'll create a link for the new tutorial. So here we've got the version. So if you specify a version, whatever version of Python you're looking for, then it will create the URL, and then the source directory is where we save our source files to, and then openssl directory, I've put the default one in for Ubuntu 20, but if you have a custom location, then you would want to put that in there, right? We didn't really need to specify LD library path. If you have any difficulties with Python showing up in its correct location once it's installed, you can just uncomment that, but on Ubuntu you should be fine, and what it does, it automatically just puts it into there. Here we've got package list, and so yeah, you can uncomment auto conf and auto make. I mean, you should have those already, but you can uncomment those if you like. And then we've got all of the dependent libraries that it will install. I've divided this into functions. So we've got the install function here. What it does, it accepts an array, which is this particular array of all of these packages. It will loop through it, and then it will verify it. So we'll look to see if it's got it installed. If it doesn't, then it will install it. Then what we do, we look for the version. So later on in the script, this is another function that looks for the version. So it looks for the version that we specified, and it just does some rejects. We've got 3, we've got 3.7 here, so V meaning 1 character, V.V meaning 2 characters, 3.7, that's 3, but 3.7. And then it looks for, it tells us what all of our installed versions of Python are over here. So it just does some version checking, and later on in the script, that's where I use it. And then we've got this source download. So source download, it just does some checking for the version. If the version's already installed, then it won't install it. It will make the directory where we're installing our source. It will then do the wget source URL, put it in our temp folder. It will then unpackage it, and then it will just tell us what we, where it's installing it to, target directory. And then if we've already done that already, it will just tell us that we have the version already installed. Python SSL, openssl, this is where we do our changes to the module setup distribution file. So I'm just doing some sed reject stuff here where I'm just updating those uncommented lines which we need. And configure, you've got an option here where it configure it out without openssl or with. Now this one I've set it to with, but for any reason if you didn't want to do that, then lower down in the code you can just change that. Python build, so here we've got the build, so here we look for the cores, number of cores on your system, and then we just put it here if it's 1, if it's 16, if it's 8, etc., and then alt install. So that's another function, and I've split these all up into functions. So let's start with the first one. So we'll just run these. I could run the whole thing in its entirety, but I'll just run these separately. Alright, so let's do the first one. So bash, put that in there, put in my password. Alright, so now what it's doing is just loading the installing the dependencies. And if there's anything which is not installed, it will install it. So you can keep on running this script, and it won't repeat the same behavior. If everything's installed, it won't need to do it again, it's already installed. So the next one, and this is why I've split this up into functions, it's now going to download the source. So we can run that, and now we'll download the source to its rightful directory. But because I'm doing this in temp, I've set it to look for the compressed file in your temp folder. So let's say for example you've logged out, shut down your machine, and you run this script again, then it will download it to your temp folder again. But that's fine, it doesn't take that long. And that's all it will do on the download. But once it's once you've got this folder in your path, so let's go to where it is, user local, so and Python source, then it will just keep on then it won't keep on doing that same thing over again. So I'll just show you how that works. So if I just go to local Python source, put that in there. If I get rid of this folder, so for any reason you wanted to delete this installation, you could do that, but you want to delete it in the right way. But if you want to get rid of the source file, you could. So let's put in my password. Okay, that's now gone, and I can go back to this and I can rerun that again, and there it is, it's back again. So, and if I were to rerun that again, then it's going to tell me that I've already got it in there. So it's not going to do that same behavior again, uncompress it and create the folder, etc. Alright, so the next bit I want to do, so this bit over here, I've put 2 comments on. I've said without explicit SSL. You don't want that. You want that explicit SSL. You could run it without, and it could work if it finds the folder, but if you want to be explicit, then you'll run it with this one, which is openssl with explicit SSL. But I've just put that alternative in there for you if you wanted to, right? So now let's run it again. So it's going to create the Makefile. Just let that run. Alright, so that Makefile is now created. So I've put some logic in there in creating the Makefile, and I've said if the Makefile doesn't exist, then you're going to create the Makefile. So if you wanted to recreate the Makefile, just get rid of the whole folder, as I did over here, and then it will just do the whole thing again. So alright, let's do the next bit, and we are going to build it. So the Makefile has already been done, so it will bypass that bit and it will start installing. So what I did just then, while it's installing, I just commented out each of these functions, so that way I can show you step by step. But what I've now done, I've uncommented them. So if you just run this script, like the whole thing will just install itself, providing that you specify what version you want up here. So change that. So I know you don't want 3.7.5. Maybe you do, but yeah, just change that to the version you need. If you've got a custom installation, change that of openssl, then change that to the location where it is. So I mean, the source file, I could have just put the source inside of temp as well, but it'll get rid of it. So what I want to do, I just want to manage everything nicely. So I can go back to the source and I can say, okay, what did I do over there? And I can just take a look and I can rerun it again without having to download it again, I guess. Okay, let's go back to this. So just give that a while. So yeah, if you don't want to go through all the manual stuff, then you can just run this script and it'll just do it all for you. And you can just run this script if you want to install other versions. I prefer to run scripts on everything that I do, so it just makes it easier when I'm just doing things over and over again. Give that a while. I'm hoping I didn't forget to say anything. Sometimes there's stuff that I want to mention and sometimes I forget, and this is the opportunity where I have to say it. So hopefully I didn't forget anything important. Alright, so just give that a bit. Almost there. But yeah, it must have been frustrating for some of you guys if you did get that SSL issue. But yeah, your installation is fine. It's just you just need to recompile it, and I will show you how to recompile in a sec. Alright, so let's do a Python 3 version. 3.8.5 is my default, and we'll do a 3.7. That's installed. Pip3 version default, and 3.7, which is the version for 3.7. And what else? So let's do a sudo excuse me, just clear my throat for a sec. Sudo pip3 install pandas, right? So pandas pip3 install. Okay, but we're going to do that for 3.7. 3.7. So we've got no issues on that. So no SSL issues. So this video really is going to be better than the last video which I did, but I'll allow you to have both videos to look at, and I'll reference this one in the previous video. But because I've written this script, making it a lot easier for you, then this might be the best one. This video might be the best one. All right. Right now what I want to show you, I want to show you how to recompile it. So let's say, for example, you did get, you've already compiled it and you're getting that error and you want to fix that error, right? So you're thinking to yourself, how do I go ahead and fix that error? All right, so if you do all of the steps that I showed you before manually or with this script, then all you need to do is go back into the folder, and you just want to make the recompile the source. So all you need to do is, let's go into that, and we'll do a sudo configure enable optimizations with openssl equals your path. But yeah, remember the step which I did. So if you've just jumped a chapter, right? I'll try and put this in the description as well if you've just jumped over to this chapter. But there's also another step that you need to do, which is to set the edit the modules / setup.dist file, right? Setup.dist file. You need to also make some changes in that file. But if you've run the script, then that will do that for you. If you do it manually, just remember to do that. So this is for anyone who's just leaped over to this chapter without looking at anything that I've done already or mentioned already. All right, so now we've specified our openssl directory. So let's just check that: sudo configure enable optimizations. Okay, then we can just run that, and then what it's going to do is going to make that Makefile again, redo that Makefile. Now what I could have done, I could have just done a very short video on how to recompile it and what you need to set, right? But I wanted to go through all of the steps because I want to have the video easy to digest for anyone who's coming into it. So whatever your needs are, whether you want to do it from the start, whether you want to just recompile it, whether you want to know exactly what's going on, then I've explained everything for you for any person with varying needs. Alright, so now what I can do, the command is going to be a little bit different this time. When I do the make, I'm going to do a sudo make clean, and I'm still in the same directory, right? Yeah, so you can also put in the number of cores if you want to make this compile a lot quicker. But because I'm on VM, I know it's only going to be one core, and so I don't really need to specify that. And then obviously you need to put in alt install. Alright, so let's run that. And then by putting in clean, what you're doing away with everything. You're just doing a complete clean installation. So yeah, if you do get that, if you have had that error and you want to correct that error, then this is the way to recompile it to get rid of that SSL error. So now you're recompiling it with SSL explicitly configured. So I might stop the video here. I'll kind of think about it rather than having you sit through this. You've already sat through it, so you know what to expect. So I might stop the video here and yeah, just say yeah, thank you guys for the comments, and if there is any other issues that you want me to take a look at, then I'll be happy to do that. I've kind of put a pause on, I've kind of slowed down a little bit on some of the videos because I wanted to go back into the comments and go address everything which people are asking. Because if one person is experiencing it, then there's possibly other people who are experiencing it, and it's good to just go back and get everyone up to speed, so that way I can move on to the next bit. So yeah, I guess I can stop this now, and or should I let it carry on? I'll let it carry on. I mean, you can just turn it off now if you want to, but for anyone who's interested in seeing me rerun Python again after this installation, then I'll do that. That's if you've kind of just leapt to this chapter. But yeah, this chapter is for anyone who has installed it already, got the SSL issue, and you want to recompile it. And what else can I say? Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other things which I could also mention, but there isn't, I think. So yeah, if you don't have openssl installed, which if you don't have it installed, I think you're probably on a different distribution of Linux. But I can certainly go through that. I might do a tutorial of installing openssl, and then also the errors that you get with a upgraded. Yeah, I'll probably do an upgrade. Yeah, I'll do an upgrade. Which is going to be exactly the same as doing a completely new installation. If you do a new installation of openssl, then you won't get any errors because it'd just be the only installation that you have. But if you needed to upgrade it, then I'll go through that. I'll show the errors that you get and how to fix those as well with a upgraded or new installation. So that's something that I'll do at some point. And another person has asked me, can I show how to insert data into Mongo? So I'll probably do a full Mongo DB, beginners, get up and running, install it, insert data, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, if there's anything that you need, anything that you're interested in, I'll definitely go through the comments and respond to that. When I initially started doing these tutorials, I was clicking through every person's comment and putting a like on it. But then after a while, I stopped doing that. But I definitely read the comments, and I definitely respond to them with new tutorials on how to fix any issues you guys are facing. So let's come out of this. That's now stopped, and I'll come out of that directory and I'll do a Python 3 version. Default is 3.8.5, and I'll do a 3.7. So 3.7 is there, 3.7.5 is there. So yeah, everything is that's how you recompile it. If you want to recompile it with SSL explicitly specified, then that's how you do it. If you've already installed it and you want to recompile it, or whatever you want to do, if you want to recompile it and there's other flags or options you want to include, that's how you can go about it. So yeah, thank you very much, and yeah, people normally say that on YouTube videos, so I'll say the same thing as well. Yeah, like the video if you like it. Yeah, and thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.